Hello and welcome to Little Learners. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about what you can do if your child is struggling to learn to read. Now, first of all, I want to stress that children learn at their own pace, and when children come to school, so maybe when they're in reception, there are children who are almost a year apart. So in my class, I will have children who were born in August, and then children who were born in the September before that. So they're almost a year apart, and that makes a big difference. So this video is not about whether or not your child can read first in the class or if they are behind their peers, because that should not be an issue. This video is about if your child is struggling to read and what you can do to support them to learn at their own pace. So what do I mean when I say struggling to learn to read? Well, there are lots of different kind of aspects to this. So if you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that I do a lot with phonics. Some of those videos will be in the description box below. So phonics is the way that children are taught to learn what different letter sounds are, and then eventually put all of those letter sounds together to make whole words. Some children may struggle to recognise the letter, so the grapheme, and attach that to the sound, the phoneme. So a child may see the letter A, and even though they know that there is a sound that exists that sounds like ah, they find it really hard to match them both together. There is also the side of things where children know their phonics, but really struggle to blend sounds together to make whole words. So we call this segmenting and blending. So if you have a whole word, the one I often like to use is the word mat. If you have the whole word mat, a child will break it up in order to read it. So they'll say t, mat, and put them all together. If a child is struggling to blend them together, that's another reason that they may be struggling with reading. Another thing, which I think a lot of parents don't realise, and through no fault of their own, is that a big part of reading is being able to understand what's happening in a story and be able to talk about it. So comprehension skills. So if you ask a child how a character is feeling, or you ask a child what you think is going to happen next in the story, and they have no idea, then that probably means that they are reading the words fine, but have no idea what those words mean. So I see this a lot with parents who want their children to go up to the next reading level, and I tell them that they're not ready and they're not at that level yet, and the parent will say to me, but they can read. And I say, well, they can read the words, but they have no idea about the meaning of them. And of course, with reading, that is a massive part of it. So what can you do? Well, I think one of the biggest things that you should be looking out for is if you think your child may have a hearing or vision problem. So I have posted a video about the signs of hearing problems, and I may post one about the signs of vision problems if you want to see that. So often if children are struggling to read, it can be because they're struggling to hear the sounds. So if they're struggling to learn their phonics, maybe they can't hear the sound properly. Or if they're struggling to blend all those sounds together, it may be because they're struggling to hear how those sounds go together to make a whole word when they're saying it out loud or when they're listening to someone else say it out loud. So it's always important to think about hearing, and if you think that may be a problem, just go and get a hearing test, even if it's just to put your mind at rest. Another issue may be that your child has a vision problem. So they may see the letters and they're just blurry. It can be really hard for a child to tell you if they have a sight or hearing problem if they've always had it, because they'll never know any different. So that's absolutely not to scare you. I'm sure most children who are struggling to learn to read, it's not because of a hearing or vision problem, but those I think are the easiest things to check just to make sure that those aren't the reason, and if they are, you can do things to help your child. So other things you can do. So obviously some children might not like reading, and that for me is a huge problem because I always try to instill a love of reading in my students. Often if a child doesn't like reading, it's because they have anxiety around reading, so they feel pressure to get the words right, and if they don't, then they get very upset, so then they're just closed off and they don't want to do it at all. So it's always important to encourage them and not punish them if they get a word wrong. Just encourage and make sure that you are modelling the behaviour that you want to see. So for some children, they're not interested in reading because they've never really had much interaction with books. So it's really important for you to be looking through books with your child, even if you're just looking at the pictures, just so that they turn the page and they engage with books. It's also very important to make sure you are getting books that your children will be interested in. So if a child loves dinosaurs, get some books about dinosaurs. Even if they're not able to read them, you can read them to them, so then they see the value of reading. If a child can't read a book about dinosaurs, but they love the book, they're more likely to want to learn to read simpler books that aren't that interesting, so that they can get to the level where they can read books about dinosaurs or whatever they're interested in. So it's really important to model that behaviour and just make sure you have books at home that your child can look at. If you can't buy books, that's perfectly fine. Go to your local library and borrow some books. That can be a whole adventure in itself, and I love libraries, so yes, go to your local library and get some books. You can borrow books and it's free and it's wonderful. One of the biggest points I want to make is that you need to be patient. Don't expect your child to just learn like that. And trust me, I know that repetition is exhausting, but at early education level, repetition is what we do. It is how children learn. So even if you've read the same book 5 million times, if your child is interested in it, read that book again. And even if you are so fed up with saying to your child, no, it's not ma, it's really important that you keep doing that. And obviously your child's teacher will be doing that at school as well. If you ever have any concerns about your child's reading level, if you're not sure if it's where it should be, and I say should be because all children will be at slightly different levels and that's fine. If you are concerned about it, go and talk to your child's teacher. Say to them, maybe we can have a meeting, just let them know that it's about the reading so that your child's teacher can then come with anything that they want to show you. And just talk to them. Say, I'm having these troubles at home. It may be that your child doesn't want to read at home, but reads all the time at school, which is something we see constantly. Children behaving very differently at home than they do at school. And your child's teacher will be able to give you some pointers that are more kind of catered towards your child in particular, and maybe tell you some things that they're doing in the classroom that you can also do at home. There are also lots of different ways of reading. So if your child doesn't want to engage with books because they're too anxious about it, or they get stressed because they can't read them, look at words around their environment. So when you're out and about and you see a sign that has quite a simple word, maybe a stop sign, for example, that a child could sound it out with your child, or just say, oh look, that sign has a word on it. Just even if you're not sounding it out, just get them interested in words. And if they're not at the level of recognising words yet, just start recognising sounds in your environment. Just find any kind of way that children can get interested in reading. There are also some great TV shows for children that encourage them to read. I know that my children absolutely love Alpha Blocks. I haven't watched it that much, but it's definitely been on in my classroom before. So just find something that your child is really interested in. If you feel like you've tried everything and your child's teacher is also concerned about your child's reading, then maybe you want to speak to the SENCO at your child's school, which is the Special Educational Needs Coordinator. So it may be that your child has something else going on, and I will probably do a video at another point about special educational needs and the kind of variety that there are and what you should do if you think your child has something like that. But it may be that your child has a bit of a processing issue or something else that if you work out what it is, you can support them and they can try and overcome it. So what I would say to recap is, check your child's hearing and vision if you think that may be a problem. Model the behaviour you want to see, so be looking at books with them and let them see you reading books. Don't punish your child or get cross with them in front of them when they still can't do a word. And if a child is really struggling with a word, then read it for them. Not always. It's important to let children struggle a little bit sometimes because that's how they learn, but not on every single word. You can read it for them. And maybe even you read a sentence, they read a sentence, you read a sentence, they read a sentence, so they get a bit of a break because it is exhausting being a child. Speak to your child's teacher about your child's reading in class and what you can do at home to support them that is kind of in line with what they're doing in the classroom. And of course, if you and your child's teacher have a concern about your child that you feel like both of you can't quite navigate, then make an appointment with the Special Educational Needs Coordinator at your child's school just to see if they've got any advice and if they might want to come in and meet your child in the classroom and just have a chat with them, maybe do some reading with them and see if they think that there's anything that the school can be doing to further support your child. The biggest thing about children who are struggling to read is that we want them, we need them to enjoy looking at books and reading. So even if your child just opens books and looks at the pictures and can discuss the pictures with you, which is a really big skill, and talk about what's happening in them and what they think is going to happen next, that is still really important. That is a big milestone. And if your child is doing that, then you can start evolving that into reading words. So I hope you found this video helpful. Do give it a like if you did, because it really helps out the channel. If you have any advice for other parents about reading, and if your child's struggling to read, maybe your child had difficulties learning to read and you found some things that were helpful, do let me know in the comments below because it's really important for parents to be helping parents. Do subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. And I know you're sick of hearing it, but please also hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post a new video so you never miss a thing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.